what I want to get into here is Red Bull Rampage.
Okay.
So, when we had first met, you had told me like you shot Red Bull Rampage, and
Yeah.
here I am. I knew what it was, and I knew it was a big deal.
Yeah.
I really didn't know much about it, but I was like, dang, this kid, he shot Red Bull Rampage. I mean, he's only 18. Like that's incredible.
Yeah.
How did you get into shooting something like that?
Okay. I guess to preface this, like I mentioned earlier, in junior high and high school, I took yearbook. And so one of the things that some people know about me, honestly not a ton, because it's not really the work that I post anymore or share a lot, but it's still the work that I love, is sports. I love high action sports. I love watching it, love shooting it.
Hence the GoPro when you started.
The GoPro. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people think GoPros go with fast, high-paced action sports. And so that's what I did throughout high school. I mean, I wish I had one of my yearbooks with me right now. I wish I could show you, but like, especially my junior and senior year, I was in charge of my yearbook, and probably 75% of the entire yearbook is all my photos, especially for all the sports teams. And so that's one of the things that I was really intrigued with when I started photography too. And so that's one of the things I took the time to learn, and then one of the things I took the time to incorporate because I was doing it for yearbook. I mean, for 4 years throughout my school. And so, I mean, I just was doing that, and I just found out about Red Bull Rampage when I was 14, when I first picked up a camera. And my dad works for Maverick, who's one of their sponsors, and so he got tickets. So I actually didn't get like paid, like, hey man, like you're 18, we love your work, come down to Red Bull Rampage and we'll pay you to shoot. I actually just showed up, and I went to one of the media tents, and I asked to talk to whoever was in charge of that. And they called the lady on the radio, and she came down, and she was super nice, and she came and talked to me. And she's like, hey, like it's day of event, like I can't like give you a media credential or anything like that. And so I was like, oh, like that's totally fine. But she's like, let me get your email though, and you can email me the photos that you like, and we'll see if we can license them from you. Because Red Bull's a huge company, and all these companies have like licensing deals. And I shot Red Bull when I was 18. It's probably some of my favorite photos I've ever taken. And that was last year. And I mean, I don't know if it really matters too much. I reached out to her. She never really said anything back. But I ended up posting these photos, and I had a lot of the actual riders that I took the photos of comment on these photos. And I had Kyle Straight, who's actually probably one of my 2 favorite riders for Red Bull Rampage. He actually messaged me, and we were talking a little bit, and he commented on my photo, and then he actually ended up posting it on his Instagram and tagging me. And from that tag, one of his sponsors actually reached out to me, and they said, hey Kai, like we love this photo, we would love to license it from you. And so they paid me to license that photo, which all in all ended up working out for me because I got a free ticket, I got to go shoot a sport that I loved, and I ended up getting paid for it in the end, even though I didn't have like a media credential. And then I ended up going back this year as a spectator also and watching. And this year I feel like wasn't quite as good as last year, but that's because they did it at a different venue. But even this year was incredible too. And so that's something that I would love to pursue more. And if anybody that works for Red Bull or has a connection is watching this or listening, please hook me up. I would love to shoot Red Bull Rampage as an official photographer another year.
Yeah, well, I will vouch for you because those photos that you took from that first time you went are incredible.
Thank you.
And I mean, when I talk to other people about you, those are the photos I show them. I'm like, this dude's legit. Look at these photos he got at Red Bull Rampage.
Yeah.
And everyone who sees them like, whoa, that's so cool. Like those are amazing photos.
Yeah.
For everyone who may not know, who's listening, can you tell us what Red Bull Rampage is?
That's what I was just going to say. I think we should go into that. So I can explain Red Bull Rampage, but even explaining it does not do it justice. I would highly recommend that people go onto YouTube and look it up. You can watch the condensed version. It's usually like an 8-hour event, and then they shorten it down and just put like the 2.5 hours of people actually riding, so you don't hear all the talking and all the pauses. But Red Bull Rampage is an event put on by Red Bull every single year that it's possible. I think it first started in early 2000s. And so hypothetically, if they would have done it every year, they would have had like probably 20, but they've actually only had 14 because some years it's been too dangerous. Some years they haven't had enough riders. But Red Bull Rampage is the most, what's the word that I'm looking for? High action and dangerous downhill mountain biking event in the world. And it's held every year that they hold it in southern Utah. And it's insane. Like, these guys have a week basically. They show up if they get invited. There's only a certain amount of riders every single year they get invited, and they're considered to be the best riders in the world for free ride downhill mountain biking. And they show up and they have 4 days to dig their line in this ginormous mountain of just sand, which is what southern Utah is sand and rocks basically. And then they get one rest day, and then they get 4 days to practice. And one of the crazy things that I learned about this is usually there's about 20 riders that get invited every year. And most of the time, by actual like race day or competition day, when all the spectators show up, there's sometimes like half or 3/4 of that amount, because a lot of these guys get injured just practicing their lines, because it is just so crazy, like what they're doing. I don't even pretend to understand it. Like, I know last year there was about 18, 20 guys that got invited, and only 13 or so of them ended up actually competing. And there was actually one guy that during the event failed one of his tricks and broke his collarbone and a couple ribs. And I have photos of him tumbling down this mountain and his bike breaking and his helmet obliterating. And they stopped the entire thing for like 45 to 60 minutes to get him on a stretcher and to get him to a hospital. And it's just crazy. Like, these guys are doing things that just I couldn't even imagine.
Well, they're doing things that no person should ever do.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what they do literally is insane.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, you can talk about it, you can explain it, but it does not do it justice. Like, everyone at home needs to go at least look this up.
Yeah.
To see what you're talking about, because the lines these guys are doing are absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be a special kind of person to want to go do that kind of stuff.
It's crazy. You can live stream it every year. And the crazy thing, too, is that this is all done on BLM land. And Red Bull, I don't know if they pay like a fee or like do what, but they use this BLM land. And so once they pack up Red Bull Rampage, you can go there. They take everything down because they don't want people that think they're professionals throwing their bikes off these 80-foot gaps. But you can take your ATVs up there. You can take your 4x4s and you can go check it out. And it's just crazy to see these lines and the heights and the things that they do. And it's just gnarly to think about, too. That's why they're the best in the world at it. And that's why so many people come to watch. And they also only sell like a certain amount of tickets. And most of it's like they open it up. And I know last year, like, I already had a ticket, but I just got on to even see what tickets like run price wise or how fast. And they were sold out in 20 minutes. And people jack the prices of these tickets up because it's something I met a couple people this year that they literally flew here from Europe to come and watch this event, because mountain biking is pretty big in Europe too. And like, some people don't even get tickets. There was one guy that was in the parking lot holding up a sign, like looking for a ticket, and he was like willing to pay like an absurd amount of money just for a ticket, but nobody wanted to give him one because it's such a crazy event and they all wanted to go and watch.
Yeah, it's something that, I mean, any action sport like that is just, I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know why people do it. I'm very risk averse in that sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, what those guys do is absurd.
Yeah.
Like, you would never get me close to. I don't even want to take a mountain bike on a regular trail, like in the mountains here. Like, that is out of my comfort level. So I can't imagine doing something like that. You really enjoy sports and action stuff. What is it about those activities that draws you to them, at least as a photographer?
Yeah.
And if they also interest you, like, to actually go do that stuff, what is it about those things that pulls you in?
Oh, I think it's just the adrenaline rush. I think
you're
it's
a kid.
crazy.
That's
Yeah. I think like even watching it, like, you get an adrenaline rush. Like, I remember when Free Solo came out with Alex Honnold, and just seeing everything that he was doing too. Like, growing up, I wasn't into extreme sports or anything like that. I liked spending time outside. But as I've grown up, I've been like, wow, I really want to try that. And because of Red Bull Rampage, I picked up a mountain bike and I started doing a little bit of mountain biking. I'm not crazy like they are. I don't do insane jumps, but that's something I would love to get into if I can find the talent and the time for it. And that's one of the reasons I love photographing it too. is because taking pictures at events like that gives me a way to watch the game and take pictures, and so I'm doing two things that I love at once. And so I just love it all in general. I don't even know how to really explain it, but just being on the sidelines or being in something like that, being involved in it, even though I'm not the actual athlete, just gives me this sense of participation. But then I also get a front row seat to the event, and I get to take some pretty cool pictures too.